When he comprehended his own great Tao, Hanju's aura transformed. A wisp of black aura wrapped around his body, scaring the strange deity so much that it didn't dare to approach. It hid in the corner shivering. At the same time, a ball of light appeared in the darkness and expanded. Figures appeared in the darkness and looked at the ball of light from afar. A new great Tao? I can't figure it out. I wonder who created it. Perhaps the great Tao developed naturally. It still has to wait for several primordial meetings or even longer before this great Tao can form its own rules and produce its own living beings. Do you guys want this great Tao? If this great Tao is really created by a cultivator, it would be a waste of effort. Let's wait and see. Hanju didn't know that when he created the great Tao, a new creation was appearing in the unknown darkness. He slowly opened his eyes. He could sense a new great Tao power in the world of stars. It was shaped like a black mist and surged at the edge. This great Tao combined the characteristics of the 8 fiend celestials he had already grasped. Heavenly constellation fiend celestial, 9 fiend celestial, wind shaking fiend celestial, shadow flood fiend celestial, void fiend celestial, scarlet clear fiend celestial, weak water fiend celestial, and extreme darkness fiend celestial. In the future, he could also inject more creation into the new great Tao through other fiend celestial dharma idols. This would be an unprecedented great Tao, and also the strongest great Tao, because it combined the characteristics of other great Tao. Let's call it the great Tao of extreme origin, Hanju muttered to himself. Extreme was the limit of the 3,000 great Tao. Origin was the source of the 3,000 great Tao. After fusing 3,000 great Tao, he could also create his own 3,000 great Tao. Somehow, Hanju sensed that the great Tao of extreme origin was responding to him and acknowledged this name. Detected that this is your first time creating a great Tao. You have the following choices. 1. Impart the Tao and preach the Tao. Let all living beings cultivate the great Tao of extreme origin. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance, a great Tao fragment, and a supreme treasure. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and not reveal the existence of the great Tao of extreme origin. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a random natural treasure. I haven't even made a name for myself. How can I preach the Tao now? Hanju directly chose the second option. Once the great Tao of extreme origin spread, it would definitely attract the suspicion of the heavenly Tao sages, great Tao spirits, and even transcendent Tao experts. Hanju wasn't stupid. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment and a random natural treasure. Congratulations on obtaining the Traceless Breeze Lotus. Traceless Breeze Lotus, connate spiritual item. Traceless in the soil. Spreads billions of seeds and produces boundless connate chi. Not bad. He could spread it outside the hidden sect island and increase the nearby connate chi. As for the interior of the Tao field, there was no need to increase the connate chi. It was already extremely dense. It just so happened that the disciples and nether race members could stay outside in the future. As for hidden sect island, they could use it when escaping. Hanju no longer needed spirit chi and connate chi for his cultivation. He only needed to absorb the negative karma in the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. Hanju stood up and jumped out of hidden sect island. Arriving outside, he discovered that the surrounding trees were much fewer. Several tall palaces, Taoist temples, and other temples appeared 100 steps away. Hanju could sense the aura of the disciples. It seemed they had already found a place to stay. He took out the Traceless Breeze Lotus. It was a seed the size of a peanut. He threw it on the ground and, in the blink of an eye, the seed disappeared. Hanju probed the soil with his divine sense and saw that the Traceless Breeze Lotus was quickly splitting. Next, he only needed to wait for the Traceless Breeze Lotus to grow. Hanju revealed his aura. Under the concealment of the system, he suppressed his cultivation to rank 1 Immortal Emperor. Soon, the disciples of the hidden sect gathered and knelt in front of him. Even Xinghong Shen, Fairy Xixian, and Chang Yuer came. After that, there were Sun Chang'an, Dao Comprehension Sword, Li Yao, Tu Linger, Zhao Shenyuan, Dao Sovereign, Jiang Yi, the Han Brothers, the Black Hell Chicken, the Chaotic Heavenly Dog, Chu Shiren, Murong Qi, Diamond Rage, Lu Huaxiu, Zhou Mingwei, and the others. No one believed Hanju's rank 1 immortal emperor cultivation. Jiang Yi couldn't help but recall his first meeting with him. He cursed in his heart. Trying to lie again. The heavenly Dao's living beings were all gone. Who was he trying to fool? Hanju asked, "How do you feel about this area?" Murongqi was the first to answer. "I heard that this was once the old land of the Qilin race. It's filled with spirit qi and is indeed suitable for survival. Grandmaster, do you want to give this area a name?" The others agreed. Without a name, they felt that they were missing something. They didn't dare to make a decision. Hanju thought for a moment and said, "Let's call it the 100-Peak Immortal River." "What's the meaning?" Jiang Yi asked. Hanju glanced at him and said, "It's meaningless." Jiang Yi was stunned. Just as he was about to ask, the Black Hell Chicken shouted, "We'll do as Master says." "Jiang Yi, are you not convinced?" "Master, let him kowtow for 100 years and say that he was wrong." Jiang Yi was furious. This dog-like chicken was too despicable. Hanju said, "In the future, you will stay nearby while I stay in Hidden Sect Island. If you have anything, call me anytime." Almost all the living beings in the Heavenly Tao are dead. The ones who survived are all existences beyond the deity realm. If you encounter them, be careful. I will let Lu Bu and Ma Chao out to guard the 100-Peak Immortal River. Don't leave the 100-Peak Immortal River unless you obtain my approval. Cultivate well. When a new Heavenly Tao life form appears, you will be like legends. This is the greatest opportunity after the calamity. Hanju's words made everyone react differently. They had already guessed that this was the situation, but they were still shocked hearing it from him. Jiang Yi asked, "My Golden Crow Divine Clan is also extinct?" Hanju said, "The Zenith Heaven might still be alive." Zhao Xuanyuan's expression turned pale. There were very few Zenith Heavens in the human race. Fairy Xixian and Chang Yuer seemed to have thought of something and became dejected. Read the latest stories, and Noviaban, calm Hanju noticed their expressions and said, "The Scarlet Cloud world is still there and is protected by me. Now, it's called the Reroll world." Lu Huaxiu nodded, "That's right. I came from the Reroll world. It doesn't seem to be in the void." Some ascenders have mentioned that after leaving the Reroll world, they will encounter a terrifying fog that obstructs their progress. Hanju didn't say much about where the Reroll world was. However, speaking of ascension, Hanju remembered that he had never ascended. With his current cultivation, the tribulation of ascension was already meaningless. Ascension could only help those at a lower realm increase their cultivation. If the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal ascended to a pseudo-sage, the other Zenith Heavens would have long thought of a way to ascend again. "Master, if we preach the Tao for the first batch of Heavenly Tao living beings, will we obtain immeasurable merit and even have a chance to become a sage?" Zhao Xuanyuan's eyes lit up. The others were also excited. They had heard many legends about sages. Most sages were only called Heavenly Tao sages because they had great merit for all living beings. The Black Hell Chicken shouted, "What are you fighting for? Isn't it good to follow Master and constantly increase your cultivation level and stay away from danger? Think about your cultivation levels. Are you really not cultivating as fast as fighting for Providence?" Everyone woke up after hearing these words. Yes, survival is the most important. We're already the minority who survived. When the living beings of the Heavenly Tao appear, we will be big shots. Once you want to fight to become a sage, it will be difficult to retreat in the future. Anyway, I'll listen to Master. Me too. Everyone discussed. Hanju smiled and didn't continue to speak. He began to look around, preparing to build his own Taoist temple nearby. As for Hidden Sect Island, it would be a mystic realm. Time was no longer pressing after the heavenly Tao restarted. Hanju found the right location and waved his right hand, causing a Taoist temple that was not too big to condense in the forest. All of you should cultivate separately. Although there are no longer any living beings in the heavenly Tao, don't waste time, Hanju said, and the disciples immediately dispersed. Xinghongxian came over and asked with a smile, "Husband, can I stay in your Taoist temple?" Hanju said, "Move next to me. It's not convenient for us to stay together." Xinghongxian curled her lips and could only nod. It was good enough to be this close to Hanju. Chang Yuer wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she chose to leave with Fairy Xixian. The two of them were not as strong as Xinghongxian, so they didn't have the same courage. Hanju didn't return to the Taoist temple. Instead, he started to wander around the 100-peak Immortal River. Although he was almost 8,000 years old, he had never really been anywhere. In the past, when he came to the Immortal World, he had not stayed long, afraid that he would encounter danger. Now, no one below the heavenly Tao could threaten him. He naturally had more guts. The others didn't follow Hanju. They knew that he wanted to walk alone. Tao Comprehension Sword stared at his back and muttered, "I wonder how strong Master is now." Li Yao said calmly, he could understand the situation of the calamity at any time in the dark forbidden zone. "I suspect that he's not far from becoming a sage. He might have already become one. But he doesn't seem to be interested in the sage position." Tao Comprehension Sword nodded in agreement. Hanju spread his divine sense as he walked forward. He felt that this area might be special. To be able to maintain the landscape in perfect condition, it had to be a holy land before the calamity ended. The spirit qi here was also abundant, almost comparable to the spirit qi Xinghongxian had in the human race's holy land. Of course, it was still far inferior to his Tao field. Not long after, Hanju discovered a mysterious restriction hidden underground. He immediately dived underground and came to a mysterious cave. In front of him was a huge stone door. It was majestic and had many strange patterns carved on it. This stone door contained a powerful restriction. Unless the divine sense of a zenith heaven golden immortal approached it, they wouldn't be able to sense its existence, let alone everything inside. Hanju condensed the Void Fiend Celestial Dharma Idol. The Void Fiend Celestial raised his hand and waved it, causing the power of nothingness to collide with the stone door. The restriction on the stone door directly turned into nothingness, and even the stone door itself turned into dust. Hanju looked carefully and discovered that behind the stone door was a huge dark cave with huge eggs hidden inside. Hanju scanned with his divine sense and discovered that these eggs actually contain life. Most of them were still alive. How did they avoid the Tao destruction mystical power? He immediately asked in his mind. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue! The Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal of the Chilan race sacrificed his cultivation and providence with his innate mystical power, isolating this cave from the heavenly Tao and preventing it from being affected by the Tao destruction mystical power. Chilan race! Hanju was secretly vigilant. His divine sense didn't capture the existence of other mighty figures. He had to use the simulation trial to detect them and didn't capture the existence of the Chilan race's Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. In other words, that fellow was really dead. Hanju walked into the cave and counted the eggs. Leaving aside the lifeless eggs, there were more than 1,200 Chilan eggs that could survive. There was a certain restriction hidden in the cave that could transport underground spirit qi into the Chilan eggs and let them grow. Will subduing these Chilan eggs cause karma with sages? Hanju asked in his mind. 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue! Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. In that case, he would take these Chilan eggs. He carefully surveyed the cave. After confirming that there was no danger, he called Murongqi and Dao Sovereign over. His chapter is updat D by Novel, Bayan Ko, and Murongqi was considered the hidden sect's manager. The 100-year competition was organized by him. He was very talented in management, and Dao Sovereign was the strongest disciple. These Qilin eggs belong to the hidden sect. Take care of them in the future, Hanju instructed. Murongqi and Dao Sovereign were stunned as they looked at the 1,000 or so Qilin eggs. Dao Sovereign sighed. It's indeed the territory of the Qilin race. Murongqi asked, the Qilin race has already perished? Hanju had no choice but to derive it again. After consuming 2 billion years of his lifespan, he confirmed that the Qilin race had been wiped out, and only these eggs were left. Yes, that's all. They'll enter the hidden sect in the future, Hanju replied and left. Murongqi and Dao Sovereign walked into the cave and clicked their tongues in wonder. After leaving the underground, Hanju continued wandering. Several days later, he returned to the Taoist temple to cultivate. He created a heavenly puppet and went out to inquire about the situation. Although he was already strong enough, he still did not want to go out and wander around. What if he was surrounded by 100 pseudo-sages? Cough cough! That was too exaggerated. How could there be 100 pseudo-sages waiting for him? Anyway, it wasn't absolutely safe. Hanju still didn't want to leave the vicinity of the Dao field. He enveloped the new Taoist temple with the system barrier. The outside world wouldn't be able to spy on the inside. The excitement of being in a new place was quickly wiped away by time. The hidden sect disciples also began to enter seclusion to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, decades passed. In the Taoist temple, 3 lines of words suddenly appeared in front of Hanju. Detected that you are 8,000 years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Come out immediately and preach to the world, leaving behind a glorious name. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a mystical power inheritance. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and do not participate in disputes. You can obtain a Tao field guard. Hanju chose the second option without hesitation. This Tao field guard could only be a pseudo-sage, so he chose Shudao again. Tao field guard has begun to duplicate. Hanju thought for a moment and asked in his mind, can I move the Tao field out of Hidden Sect Island? The Tao field covered an extremely large area. It was not appropriate to restrict it to Hidden Sect Island now. 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So expensive? Hanju cursed silently. Fine. For safety reasons, it was better to move out. Continue. They were very familiar with this spirit chi increase. They had felt it before on Hidden Sect Island. They guessed that Hanju was using a mystical power, so they were not surprised. After confirming that the Tao field had moved out of Hidden Sect Island, Hanju suddenly thought of a bold idea. Since the Tao field could be moved now, could he move it wherever he went in the future? No! 100 billion years was too much. Hanju still had to use the derivation function usually. He might even have to curse the enemy in the future. With so many aspects added together, there were too many places to consume lifespan. He couldn't develop a habit. Can the Tao field keep moving? Hanju asked in his mind. Every time you change the Tao field location, the cost of lifespan will double. The cooldown time is 100 years. It would double? Hanju made up his mind not to move the Tao field easily in the future. Then, he continued cultivating. The 100-peak Immortal River's spirit chi and connate chi continued to increase. 10 years later, they reached their peak. Although it wasn't as good as Hidden Sect Island, it was still much stronger than before. Hanju also moved the Fusong tree out. It was located between the mountains and was majestic and towering into the clouds. Zhao Yun and the new guard Dian Wei stayed in front of the spatial vortex. Lu Bu and Ma Chao guarded the east and west border of the 100-peak Immortal River. After the Fusong tree appeared, the black-held chicken, Da, and Xiaoer immediately moved to the tree. They were still used to staying on it. This time, it was completely stable. Hanju placed Hidden Sect Island into the world of stars in the depths of his soul and continued cultivating. He wanted to reach the pseudo-sage realm as soon as possible. The immortal world after the heavenly Tao restarted was extremely lonely. The blood traces from the battle had yet to completely dissipate. After all, the cultivation levels of the living beings who participated in the calamity were not weak. To mortals, their blood could be considered holy and evil objects, depending on who viewed it. The world couldn't erase them in a short period of time. In the blink of an eye. 30 years passed. With a loud boom, the world shook. Hanju, who was cultivating, opened his eyes. His gaze passed through the Taoist temple and the mountains. He saw a huge finger descending from the sky and crashing towards the end of the horizon. It was a human finger that was tens of thousands of feet long. At the end, dense white bones could be seen. Hanju showed a frown. Pseudo-sage finger. This aura was much stronger than a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. In next to no time, the finger vanished at the end of the horizon. After that, a terrifying gust of wind swept over, and the mountains along the way were crushed into pieces. It swept out for a myriad of kilometers, also affecting the 100-peak Immortal River. The Tao Field's array formation was automatically activated. The strong wind was blocked, forming a huge and visible wind wall. It was extremely spectacular. The disciples of the Hidden Sect and the Nether Race could see it clearly. What's that? Whose finger fell off? Looks like there's a huge battle in the sky. If we get hit? When did Sect Master set up the array formation in the 100-peak Immortal River? I actually didn't sense it. As the disciples of the Hidden Sect discussed, many huge limbs appeared in the sky. They scattered like rain, and blood dyed the sea of clouds. Hanju narrowed his eyes. He could sense that the auras of these limbs were all different. The strongest was a pseudo-sage, and the weakest was a Grand Unity Golden Immortal. Why is there such a huge quantity? Hanju looked at the sky. After passing through the 30th heaven, he saw a mysterious black-robed man whose face he couldn't see clearly waving his sleeve. Countless limbs fell out of his sleeve and scattered on the ground. His direction was different. He clearly wanted to plot against the entire heavenly Tao. Hanju asked secretly, "Who is this person?" 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. It looked to be a sage. Emperor Shao, cultivation unknown. Heavenly Tao sage, disciple of the Tao ancestor, one of the ancestors of the devil race. Heavenly Tao sage. Hanju frowned. This person was actually one of the ancestors of the devil race, and he had even become a disciple of the Tao ancestor? The known heavenly Tao sages were Nuwa, Fuxishan, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Chao Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, Sage Fated Secrets, Sage Jinan, and Emperor Shao. Only one more was missing to form the 9. I want to know, why did Emperor Shao this? Hanju asked in his mind. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Why did it cost 1 billion more? Hanju chose to continue. Immediately after, he entered the illusion. This was a dark hall. 2 figures sat facing each other. One of the figures was obviously Emperor Shao. The other was several times larger than Emperor Shao and was covered in black flames. The heavenly Tao has been restarted. Have you prepared the remains you gathered? The black flaming figure asked. Emperor Shao replied, yes. Yes, sprinkle it on the various worlds of the heavenly Tao. Why? These remnant bodies are all living beings that contain overwhelming negative karma and resentment. After the heavenly Tao restarted, they were already abandoned by it. Taking advantage of the fact that the heavenly Tao is evolving, we can sprinkle them down on the heavens and turn them into cursed objects. They can curse the heavenly Tao and prepare for the appearance of the devil race in the future. Will the sages stop me? I will lead them away. All right, The scene shattered. Hanju frowned. It was the devil race again. He looked up again. Emperor Shao was still scattering the remains. It was hard to imagine how many corpses this fellow had gathered. Emperor Shao suddenly met his gaze. Hanju immediately looked away. Above the 30th heaven, Emperor Shao frowned. Strange, I can't see through that person's Dao field, Emperor Shao muttered. He pinched his fingers to deduce, but his expression became stranger. This person had so little karma. It was inferior to even a mortal. How had he cultivated to such a realm? Emperor Shao was interested in Hanju. At the same time, he had a feeling that this person would be an obstacle to the rise of the devil race. Emperor Shao has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 0.5 stars. 0.5 stars. Hanju looked at the notification in front of him with a strange expression. This was the first time he had encountered 0.5 stars. Such a low favorability could very well become hatred. However, Hanju was not worried. If Emperor Shao couldn't enter the immortal world with his main body, he would not be a threat. Up 10 chapters, Felben, calm Emperor Shao had scattered too many bodies. Hanju couldn't be bothered to stop him. It was a thankless task. He would leave it to future generations. When the sages returned, they should be able to think of a way to deal with it. Then, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. 5 minutes later, the huge quantity of bodily remains stopped pouring down. Peace returned to the immortal world. Ice. In the blink of an eye. 32 years passed. Choshilai wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you want to continue? This notification began to flood the screen. Hanju cursed silently. This guy was mental. He chose to accept the dream. It was still the same familiar hall. Choshilai was the first to speak. Have you seen ruined bodies descending from the heavens? Hanju nodded. Crap. Does this fellow want me to clean it up? Just pretend you didn't see it. Cultivate as usual. Don't tell the other sages about this, Choshilai continued. Hanju was stunned. Don't tell the other sages? This dog is colluding with the devils. Hanju said, other than you, no sage has contacted me for the time being. Facing Hanju's answer, Choshilai responded. It was unknown if he believed it. Hanju asked, my disciple Su Qi. He did not finish his sentence. He believed that Choshilai would understand. Choshilai replied, he's imprisoned in the heavenly race's prison and will be executed 100 years later. At that time, I will protect his soul and hand it to you. Remember, you can't leave him in the heavenly Dao's territory. Hanju quickly thanked him. It was fine as long as he could leave a chance of survival for Su Qi. Su Qi indeed deserved death. The Dao destruction mystical power slaughtered all living beings. If he didn't punish him, who knew if this fellow would become twisted in the future and become arrogant? Choshilai didn't say anything else and left the dream. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. He suddenly discovered that Choshilai didn't seem to be as passionate towards him as before. He spoke less. Perhaps it was related to the end of the calamity. Choshilai felt that he had won and no longer cared about the so-called variable of the Dao ancestor. Hanju smiled. This was also a good thing. The less he valued him, the easier it was for him to develop quietly. How shocked would Choshilai be when he suddenly turned around and discovered that Hanju was already a sage? Hanju stopped thinking and continued cultivating. According to the inheritance of the primordial chaos reincarnation Great Dao cultivation technique, if he wanted to reach the pseudo-sage realm, he had to deepen his understanding of the Great Dao. Hanju absorbed the negative karma of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus while comprehending the Great Dao of extreme origin. As for the previous Great Dao of life and death, Hanju planned to give it up. If someone had already cultivated the Great Dao of life and death, it would be difficult for Hanju to surpass the other party. The Great Dao of extreme origin was different. Hanju could cultivate this great Tao exclusive to him without worries. Soon, he entered the Tao comprehension state. The great Tao of extreme origin was unfathomable. Even if it was created by Hanju, it still required a long time to completely comprehend. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Hanju finally saw Su Qi's emails. Your disciple Su Qi was punished by the heavenly race and died. His soul was luckily saved by the sage. You ovals up tes on Novlb, calm Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Although Qiu Shilai had come to hide a conspiracy, he really meant what he said. Recently, his emails had become active again. Almost all of them were emails from his good friends from the heavenly race who had obtained opportunities. With the deaths of all living beings in the heavenly Tao, too many Dharma treasures were lost in the mortal world. Hanju thought for a moment and gathered the disciples. Do you want to go out? Hanju asked. Hearing this, the disciples were stunned. No one said anything. They thought that he was testing them. Hanju smiled and said, the heavenly Tao has been restarted. There are too many treasures in the world. If you have any thoughts, you can go out and collect them. The Dharma treasures are all yours. If you find any natural treasures, bring them back and plant them in the 100-peak immortal river. Remember, when you encounter those huge remains, take a detour. Those remains have already become evil. They contain the power of curses and might even possess you. Everyone's eyes lit up. They actually had such thoughts long ago, but without Hanju's agreement, they didn't dare to act recklessly. Zhao Xinyuan, Dao Sovereign, Jiang Yi, Murong Qi, Sun Chang'an, and the others spoke. Hanju agreed. In the end, only the Black Hell Chicken, the chaotic heavenly dog, and Li Yao stayed behind. Even Xinghong Shen, Fairy Xishen, and Chang Yuer went out. This was the first time Tao Comprehension Sword went out. She was very nervous, but with others accompanying her, nothing should happen. Hanju forbade them from acting alone and required at least 3 people to form a team. Hanju looked at the chaotic heavenly dog and asked teasingly, why aren't you going? The chaotic heavenly dog shook its head in fear and said, I'm not going out. I won't go out even if I die. Hanju smiled. It seemed that Li Xianao had traumatized the chaotic heavenly dog too much. He thought of Li Xianao and did not see Li Daokong recently. This fellow had just reached the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm not long ago and was probably in seclusion somewhere. The Black Hell Chicken smiled. Dog son, your awareness is not bad. The chaotic heavenly dog smiled smugly. Hanju looked at Li Yao and asked, you don't dare to go out, too? Although your potential is not bad, you have too few treasures. Li Yao shook her head. Dharma treasures are external objects, after all. I only believe in my own mystical powers. Hanju had nothing to say about this. The 4 of them dispersed and returned to Cultivate. 5 years later, Qiu Shilai sent a dream to Hanju and said that he wanted to give Su Qi's soul to him and asked him to go to the 33rd heaven. The 33rd heaven was a place that even the heavenly Tao could not control. Hanju thought for a moment and let his heavenly puppet go. After the heavenly puppet was injected with his dharmic powers, it was equivalent to a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. It wasn't difficult for it to fly to the 33rd heaven. Half a year later, the heavenly puppet returned with Su Qi's soul. Hanju directly took him into the world of stars and suppressed him in a star to contain his bad luck. He would wait for the right time to release Su Qi for reincarnation. Hanju was the only one left in the Taoist temple. The strange deity liked to wander around the 100-peak immortal river and rarely returned. However, it could already control its strength, so it wouldn't harm others. Therefore, Hanju let it move freely as long as it did not leave the Taoist temple. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing sage-fated secrets. The 100-peak immortal river was isolated by a Tao field, and the Taoist temple was isolated by a system barrier. Hanju wasn't worried about being discovered. After so many years, he had never failed to curse sage-fated secrets. It happened once every 10 years. Time flew. 300 years passed quickly. One of the qilin eggs in the cave finally hatched. Hanju asked his reincarnation avatar, Liu Bei, to take care of it. Liu Bei immediately informed him. Hanju sent a voice transmission to Liu Bei and asked him to take care of the qilin. Liu Bei was naturally happy. Once nurtured well, this qilin race member might listen to him in the future. At that time, he would have the right to speak in the hidden sect. Although Liu Bei was Hanju's clone, he also had his own independent thinking. Other than never betraying Hanju, his heart was human. After so many years, the disciples of the hidden sect who had gone out had yet to return. They were probably still gathering their treasures and no one was injured. Hanju was still far from the pseudo-sage realm, but he was not in a hurry. What he did not lack the most now was time. On this day, Hanju's heavenly Dao token sent a divine sense. Hanju took it out and connected his divine sense. Grand Master. Fang Liang's respectful voice sounded. Hanju smiled and said, "You're still alive." He naturally knew that Fang Liang was still alive and deliberately teased him. Fang Liang said awkwardly, "Cough cough, we've finally made it through." For example, the heavenly Dao treats the heavenly race as its leader. The leader of the heavenly race is Xianshen. Grand Master, you can return to the immortal world. It's very safe. Hanju replied, "I'm already back." "Oh? Where? Can I visit?" "I can't tell you for the time being. Is there anything else?" Hanju was very cautious and didn't trust his grand disciple completely. Fang Liang said, "The heavenly Dao has been restarted. I want to invite the hidden sect to join the heavenly court as immortal gods. You will have a chance to become part of the heavenly race in the future. The heavenly race is a heavenly Dao race and will not be affected in the next few calamities." Hanju raised his eyebrows. From the sound of it, the heavenly court had already become a subsidiary force of the heavenly race. Fang Liang was silent for a moment before saying, "This is already the best outcome I can think of. Xianshen and I have a close relationship. If we join forces, it's equivalent to controlling the heavenly Dao race and the heavenly Dao forces. In the future, we won't have to listen to the sages anymore." Hanju couldn't help but recall that Xianshen and Fang Liang indeed had a good relationship. They had been together for thousands of years. However, if it was Hanju, he would definitely not rely on others. "Forget it. As long as there are risks, I won't let your fellow disciples enter easily," Hanju said calmly. Fang Liang sighed. He was not surprised. He asked curiously, "Which disciple in the hidden sect is the strongest now?" Hanju said, "The strongest is only an immortal emperor." "Not bad. Indeed, cultivation is still very useful. Grand Master is right." The two of them chatted for a while before cutting off the connection. At the numinous palace, Fang Liang put down the heavenly Dao token and sighed silently. Grand Master became polite. Their relationship seemed to be pulling apart. To be precise, Grand Master was worried that he would implicate the hidden sect disciples. Fang Liang couldn't help but reflect. Was he really on the right path? He didn't believe that the strongest disciple of the hidden sect was an immortal emperor. Someone had definitely reached the deity realm. At this moment, the divine general walked into the hall. He came in front of Fang Liang and bowed. "Your Majesty, the human holy lands that the Buddhist sect, Jia School, Tron School, Human School, and the heavenly race rely on have all appeared one after another. They're all plotting. What should our heavenly court do?" Fang Liang said, "The heavenly Dao has restarted and all living beings have yet to appear. What should we do now?" "We can only occupy territory." The divine general said, "Your Majesty, you can ask the Fang clan to descend into the mortal world first and continue to reproduce. They will become a huge clan in the future." "Yes, that's a good idea." Fang Liang changed the topic and asked, "What about the heavenly god general and the martial god general?" The divine general said calmly, "They have already joined the human school. Fang Liang was silent. After experiencing the immeasurable calamity, there were less than 100 immortals in the entire heavenly court. All the heavenly troops had died because of the Tao destruction mystical power. Desolate and empty. This was the current heavenly court. The divine general seemed to notice that Fang Liang was not in a good mood and said in consolation, "Your Majesty, it's already a great blessing that the heavenly court survived. We've experienced the calamity of the Sage War. Your contributions are already great enough, there's no need to blame yourself." Fang Liang smiled and said, "I have you, the divine general, so I naturally have expectations." Another 10 years passed. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed Sage Fated Secrets while checking his emails. "Your disciple Zhao Shenyuan has obtained a human race supreme treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Li Daokong has received guidance from a sage. His providence has been enlightened and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Dao Comprehension Sword has obtained a heavenly Dao numinous treasure. Her providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Dao Sovereign accidentally entered the primordial race's territory. Your good friend Ada devoured the spirit meridian and his cultivation increased greatly. Your good friend Xiao Er has devoured a spirit meridian and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Zhou Fan was resurrected by a mysterious mighty figure and returned to the immortal world. Your good friend Empress Hutu has recovered the 6 paths of reincarnation. It was all opportunities." Hanju wasn't surprised to see Zhou Fan revived again. It was obvious that the 7 Dao Sage of the Great Dao Spirit had designs on the heavenly Dao, so he had resurrected Zhou Fan time and time again. Poor Mo Fuzhou was buried with him. 5 days later, Hanju finished cursing and was about to continue cultivating. Detected bearer of Khanate Providence, check its origin. It had been a long time since he saw such a notification. Hanju actually felt refreshed. He immediately checked. Falling Heavenly Stone, Khanate Life Form, the first stone spirit after the Heavenly Dao restarted. It contains the providence of the Heavenly Dao. The number 1 stone spirit of the Heavenly Dao should be the first stone spirit. Hanju immediately checked the location of the falling Heavenly Stone. It was in the 100 Peak Immortal River. It was a black stone. Hanju could already sense its intelligence. After thinking about it, Hanju decided not to disturb it for the time being. He would wait until it was about to transform. In the future, more and more Khanate life forms will appear. It feels like the world has just opened. Hanju thought silently and looked forward to it. Countless years later, he would be the legendary ancestor who had achieved the Tao. It was quite exciting to think about. On a cliff, Zhao Shenyuan, Chu Shiren, Zhou Minghua, and Lu Huaxu were meditating and cultivating. Zhou Minghua couldn't help but open his eyes and ask, "Grandmaster Zhao, what are we waiting for?" Zhao Shenyuan was a 2nd-generation disciple of the Hidden Sect. Zhou Minghua was a 4th-generation disciple, so he called him Grandmaster. Zhao Shenyuan said, "An old friend." Chu Shiren glanced at Zhou Minghua, scaring him so much that he shut up. Several hours later. Read the latest stories, NOV calm a figure flew over from the horizon. It was Zhou Fan. Zhou Fan wore a golden patterned purple robe and a jade crown. His temperament was extraordinary, and he was no longer immortal. He landed in front of Zhao Shenyuan and smiled. "Long time no see, brother Zhao. I didn't expect you to survive the calamity. Have you joined the heavenly race?" Zhao Shenyuan smiled indifferently and said, "No, but I acknowledged a master with remarkable abilities. Our entire sect successfully avoided calamity and even obtained the providence of the immeasurable emperor." Zhou Fan couldn't help but become curious. "Who?" He turned to look at Chu Shiren and the other two, and his expression changed drastically. He asked in shock, "You're all from the Scarlet Cloud world? Wait, do you know Hanju?" Everyone who rose up from the Scarlet Cloud world was related to Hanju, including himself. "How dare you call my grandmaster by his name?" Zhou Minghua snapped unhappily. Although Zhou Fen looked very strong, it was impossible for him to be as strong as Zhao Xinyuan. Zhao Xinyuan also revealed a displeased expression. Zhou Fen looked at Zhao Xinyuan and asked in surprise, "Is your master Hanju?" Zhao Xinyuan said coldly, "Be polite. Isn't my master your senior, too?" Zhou Fen was shocked. Zhao Xinyuan and Dao Sovereign both had chaotic physiques. He had heard the two of them mention that they had acknowledged the same master, but he had not said who it was. He didn't expect it to be Hanju. After Zhou Fan's shock, he was excited. How strong is Senior Han now?" Zhou Fan asked with a burning gaze. Zhao Xinyuan saw through his thoughts and said bluntly, "Has anyone from the Providence sect survived?" In other words, Hanju was stronger than a sage. Zhou Fan said, "Can you bring me to him? I'm from the same sect as him. We knew each other when we were still mortals." Zhao Xianyuan said, "Let's talk about the primordial mystic realm first. The restrictions inside are too strong. I need you to join forces with me." "All right." Zhou Fan agreed readily, but his thoughts had already drifted to Hanju. Another year passed. Hanju came in front of the falling heavenly stone. It could already move. It grew extremely quickly thanks to the dense spirit qi in the Dao field. Seeing Hanju appear, the falling heavenly stone immediately hid like a crab. Hanju was amused. After it hid, Hanju appeared in front of it again, scaring it so much that it continued to hide. Hanju let it hide first and looked for it later. It repeated the cycle. After dozens of times, the falling heavenly stone became tired and stopped in front of the grass. Hanju stood in front of it and asked with a smile, "Why aren't you running anymore?" The falling heavenly stone was silent. Hanju raised his hand and pointed. A beam of light entered the falling heavenly stone and helped it obtain the ability to communicate.